Hi Year 4 and welcome to Thursday's maths lesson. Today we're going to carry on working with data, but today your learning objective is, can I write my own data questions? But can you remember what data actually means? Yeah, it just means information. So we're writing our own information questions about the charts that we've made this week. So you need to pause the video here and go and get your chart that you've made. Got it? Okay, good. So what's involved in writing your own data questions? Well, actually, it's a lot more than you'd think. Firstly, you need to know how to read a chart, like a bar chart or a pictogram or a frequency table. You need to be able to interpret it. Can you remember that? Interpreting just means making sense of it. And you also need to be able to write the questions using the right vocabulary, and then actually calculate the answers to make sure that you know what the correct answer is. So there's quite a lot involved. We've received lots of charts this week and they're all looking amazing. We've got some that have been drawn on paper, we've got some using the computer, and some using things like Lego to help make our charts clear. We've got some more here as well. And you've all thought about really interesting questions to survey, including your family's favourite type of cheese. If you want to share the chart that you've made, ask your parents to email it to me and we'll put them on Google Classroom for people to see. Now, when we're asking questions about data or charts, we need to have certain vocabulary that we understand and that we can use. Here are 4 really important words that you're going to need today. And we're going to look at each one and see how there are different ways of saying each one. That will give you a choice when you come to write your own questions. So the first one I'm going to look at is the red one here, the word greatest. What does that mean? In maths, it doesn't mean the best. It actually means the biggest. So there are other ways to say greatest, including most, biggest, most popular, or most common. If something is common, it means it happens a lot. So the most common is the one that happens the most. The next one I'm going to look at actually means the opposite to greatest or most. Which word is that? Yeah, it's the green one, the word least. So where greatest means the biggest, the word least means the smallest or fewest, or the lowest result, or the least popular or least common. Next, we're going to look at the purple one, the word sum. Now, we looked at the word sum yesterday. Can you remember what it means? Yeah, it means to add numbers together. If you're finding the sum of 2 numbers or 3 numbers or 4 numbers, it just means you're adding them together. And other words you might use when you want people to find the sum of something is to use words like in total or altogether. And what's the opposite of sum? Difference. We looked at that yesterday as well. Difference just means subtracting or taking away, finding the gap between 2 things. How much more do you need to add to one of them to make the other one? Or how much less do you need? This vocabulary, these words, are really important when you're thinking about writing your own questions, particularly if you want to sound like a proper mathematician. So let's try it out. I'm going to use one of your charts. This one is a Lego bar chart made to tell us all about how many different jelly men there are in a bag of sweets. So if you look here, we've got a label down here that tells us the colour. So we've got yellow, green, red, purple, white, and kind of the peachy, orangey, pinky kind of colour. And then up the side, we have the number of jelly men. So here we have our careful scale, and it goes up in ones, which does make our life a little bit easier. So how can we write questions about this chart for somebody else to answer? Well, let's think about that red one first. The word greatest. What question can we ask about this chart using the vocabulary we know? Well, the first one we could look at is the word greatest. So let's think about that vocabulary and write our first question. Which is the most common colour of Jellymen? So we haven't used the word greatest. We could say which one has the greatest result, or we could use a slightly different term. So we've gone for most common. Which is the most common colour of Jellymen? And the answer is purple. Looking for the greatest one just means looking for the biggest bar. Okay, let's have a look at another one. This time let's go opposites. So let's go for green, let's go for least. Now we could use the word smallest, fewest, lowest, least popular. We can't really use least popular with this chart because this one's about how many there are, not how many people want. So I've gone for the question, which is the least common? Simple question, and all we're looking for is the smallest bar. So that would be the yellow one. The next bit of vocabulary we're going to look at is sum. So we're going to create a question where people have to add at least two parts together. So my question is, how many green men and white men were there all together? So I've used the word all together because that shows the person that I'm needing them to add them, to find the sum. And the answer is, well, let's have a look. Green men, there were 4, and white men, there were 5. So 4 add 5, the sum of 4 and 5 is 9. Okay, next bit of vocabulary, we've got one word left, difference. So we're going to write a question where people need to find the difference. And we could use the vocabulary subtract, take away, or how many more or how many less. Let's look at what I've gone for. How many more purple Jellymen are there than yellow? So I need to look at the purple, and I need to look at the yellow, and I need to find the difference between them. So the purple one, if we look carefully, is 7, and the yellow is 3. So the difference between 7 and 3, well, I can do 7 take away 3, that's 4. And I can test it out. I would need to add 4 more to make the same as purple. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, if I put 4 more blocks on, it would make it the same height as purple. So we've used all of our vocabulary now, and we've got 4 questions. But what I want you to do today is see if you can add a 5th question to your list of questions. So what I want you to do is think about if there's anything else that's interesting about your chart. So for example, this one here, if I look really carefully at all the bars, I can see that some of them are actually the same height. Some of them have equal amounts. So that's what I'm going to write my final question about. This is just purely interpretation question. They don't need to add, subtract, or anything like that. They just need to be able to read the chart. So my final question was, which 3 colours had equal amounts? You might notice that if you add 2 of your sections together, it makes another section. Like yesterday when we realised that you could add Grandad and Nan's star jumps together to make the amount that somebody else got. There are always interesting things to notice. So as you might have guessed, today's task is for you to become the teacher. What we need you to do is look at your chart that you've made, and I want you to use mathematical vocabulary, so these maths words here, to write 5 questions about your chart. Write them down really carefully, making sure, remember I'm your English teacher as well, make sure that you've got a question mark on the end. And then you need to work out all of the answers. Write your answers somewhere different, not with the questions. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to test out your questions on somebody at home. Now that might be a parent or it might be a sibling. Could be the dog, but I'm not sure they'd get the answers right. You then need to check their answers to make sure that they've got them correct. So this is where you need your answers. That's why you need to write them on a different sheet of paper. No cheating. I hope you enjoy testing people today, and I will see you tomorrow when there is an almighty TT Rockstar battle. See you then. Bye.